Welcome to What Haunts You, a podcast about the stories that haunt our dreams. I'm Katie.
And I'm Carly, and today we're going to be talking about the movie from 2022 called Smile.
We've tried to talk about this before, full disclosure, but the internet was not working. So we're going to maybe be going over ourselves. Hopefully the internet will be good this time, knock on wood. So the main character is Dr. Rose Cotter. She is played by Sosie Bacon, who's the daughter of Kira Sedgwick and Kevin Bacon, which I didn't know the first time I watched it. I looked it up the second time. She does actually look a lot like both of them. And she's a really good actress. I think that she carried the movie for the most part, but I mean, most of the movie was just on her. But I think that she had good face acting, and I was drawn in by her emotional experience. I think also just like styling wise, they did a good job of like having her be very put together in the beginning and then like dissecting that.
Yeah, becoming more and more disheveled over time.
Right. But I think we had said before that like we both thought it would have been more impactful, especially for how long the movie was. It seemed like there just should have been more going into her backstory. Like actually I was thinking earlier that I think what would have been good is seeing more scenes of her with her therapist, because we would have gotten to know like before, maybe like flashback scenes, because we know that she had been seeing the therapist for a while before and then wasn't, and then goes to her as things start going bad in this movie. And I think that would have been like a good way to get to know her story more and feel connected to her.
Yeah, that could have been an interesting way of doing that.
Yeah, I think overall, like, there was something that felt like not quite like right, or I don't know, like I really liked this movie, but there was something where I was like, it's just like not as good as I think it could have been. And when we were talking before, you kind of helped me figure out that a lot of that was the pacing. I think it's like almost 2 hours. It's like an hour and 55 minutes, I think.
Yeah, it's really long.
And it seems like I think I've said this in every episode now, that you could like cut out a third of most movies for me. And Carly doesn't feel that way about most movies.
Yeah.
But it did seem especially salient in this one that there's just like we weren't getting as much information as we could have for the amount of time.
Yeah, like they made it a longer movie but didn't really make good use of it. It played like a clean like 80 or 90 minute movie, but it lasted for almost 2 hours, which just didn't really work. If it's going to have the extra time, like put some meat in there, put something substantial in there.
Right. Like when I was an hour into it, the second time I watched it, an hour into it, I was like, okay, we're probably like coming up on the climax and then the end right now. And there was 55 more minutes and I was like, whoa. But I think that the director probably just, and the writer wanted to like have several scenes where we're being like shook by it not being reality. That's the thing that repeats the most, is like we think we're in a scene, or we're seeing a scene, and then we're like, oh, she was just imagining that. And yeah, we also talked about how her boss, so she's a psychologist or psychiatrist.
I think she's a psychiatrist.
And she works in a hospital. We see her with one patient who's saying like, you're gonna die, I'm gonna die, we're all gonna die at the beginning. And I liked that they talk about how like, even though he's somebody who could seem scary to people, they're like, oh no, he's not violent, he's like totally fine, he just needs to sit over here for a while. And I think this is to the other person. So maybe she says it to both of them, but she says, I know what you're experiencing feels really real, but it can't hurt you, which seems to be true for the first patient we see. But then her next patient is like kind of introducing us to the villain of the story and saying that she saw her professor die by suicide. And then this thing has been like following her ever since then and smiling at her, but like a really disturbing smile. And then she kills herself and has a smile. I think you had said before that you didn't like how they shot that scene.
Yeah, I felt like that scene went on too long and showed too much. And I like gory movies, so I don't mean it in that way, but more in the sense of sometimes you can show too much and like make something lose its impact. And it was just too long. I feel like they could have just shown her like starting to go and do it and then show her on the ground and like focus more on the reaction and like have it take less time. I don't know. I just felt like I was watching it and at first I was like, oh shit. And then I was like, okay, I get it. Like you know what I mean? Like it was really impactful when she first stuck the thing in her face to start cutting herself. And then it just like lost it very quickly. And I was like, okay, like this isn't, I knew what was going to happen. I didn't need to see it. And I think sometimes my mind can do a better job of scaring me. And I think that was a moment like that where I didn't need that to be on the screen. I could have done more with it in my head.
Yeah, I think it was like a full minute or two of her scratching and or cutting from the top of her cheek to across her throat. And the scenes, you're right, like the when she first started cutting her cheek is when I was like the most heightened. And then when she's like laying in the puddle. So I guess that's something. I like that they included a scene about her not having insurance because the boss is saying to Dr. Cotter, like, oh, you admitted this person, they don't have insurance. And the boss is Kal Penn from Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. Which is like, yeah, like I hate that my brain is typecasted him. I want him to be able to do more, but it's hard because I've seen Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle and Escape from Guantanamo Bay a bunch.
Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay is like my problematic fave movie. And so I really can't see Kal Penn without picturing him like fucking a giant bag of weed in lingerie, which is not, not a serious moment, clearly. And I do think that it impacts it a little bit for me.
But I like that when we first see him, I think this is when we first see him, he's like, why'd you admit this girl? She has no insurance. And Dr. Cotter is like, okay, but she needs treatment. And he says something about the board and like how he has to answer to them. And she's like, well, maybe the board should try giving a shit.
Which I feel that.
I was like, yes.
I agree.
And then the police are there, and I don't think we find out until later, but one of the cops is her ex-boyfriend, and one of them is like super stigmatizing and weird. What did he say?
He says she's a head case, right?
Oh yeah. He's like pretty much just trying to be able to write off her killing herself and like not have to look into it anymore and stigmatizing her. And she says, in response to that, she said she had acute post-trauma psychosis. And the guy says, well, she sounds fucking crazy to me.
Yeah.
And then it goes to the body under a sheet and the blood has like soaked through and it looks like a smile.
Yeah. Well, and I think, okay, so this is early in the movie, but this was like when I kind of realized that I didn't think the movie was going to work for me as well as it did the first time, because this was when I was like, okay, this feels like too much on the border of being cheesy. And like, they're not doing enough to like steer away from being cheesy, but they're not doing enough to like lean into the fact that the premise is honestly a little bit cheesy with the smile thing. And so the tone of this movie was so off for me the whole time. And I the first time I watched it, I had fun and I liked it. This time, I think watching it and kind of paying more attention and thinking about it more, that was one of those moments where I was like, this is bordering on silly, but pretending to be serious in a way that just didn't land.
The sheet part or the cop part?
All of it, but the sheet part where I was like, so it's kind of like also when she was cutting her face open, I was like, this is like not effective. And then the cop interaction was cheesy and like seemed like it should have almost been comical, but like wasn't. And then the sheet part happened and I'm just like, what does this movie want? Like, what did you want me to be like smirking about this or like freaked out? Like, I can't tell what you're trying to make me feel with this.
Yeah, I think that it's hard to get away from with a smile, that it's hard to be like totally serious, the smile. But I am really scared of the smiling people, especially like watching people do violent things to themselves while smiling. That shook me.
I think they could have done it and not had it been cheesy, but they added too many things and like too many ways of doing the scenes that just made it have that little bit of it. It gave me like an itch for cheese that wasn't getting scratched.
An itch for cheese.
But it was like too much, you know what I mean? But it was too much that I had a hard time taking it seriously, I think.
Yeah.
And it just felt like when you're listening to like a song that's very off key, you know what I mean? And I was like, there's something here that I think is good and like valuable, but it's just like not doing it right.
I definitely could see it getting made a few different ways, and I think I might enjoy some of them more. I noticed this time watching it that when she drives home from the hospital, the camera flips so she's driving upside down, and then that happens again later when she's driving to her mom's house.
Yeah.
And I like that perspective shift. That happened in Hereditary too.
Yeah.
And I especially like that because sometimes they'll do like spinny things or something like that, and that makes me dizzy. But just being upside down, if they do it like effectively, it usually doesn't make me dizzy.
Yeah, because it's like a slow, it's not like all of a sudden you're like being flipped around and flipped around. It was like a slow kind of tilt.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so this is one of the cheesier scenes where I was like, this is weird. This feels like it's something out of like Grey's Anatomy or something, where like the cop comes back to her work the next day, who's her ex, and is like waiting for her, and she's like, I don't have time for this. And the nurse behind the desk is like, you know, she's engaged, right? But I'm single.
Right. It's just like, what? Like, this doesn't fit. It like, it literally was like someone shoved a bunch of random puzzle pieces from different puzzles together. And I was just like, what's happening here?
Yeah. And then we see Rose sees like the initial patient who was saying like, you're gonna die, I'm gonna die, she's gonna die, and he has the creepy smile, or at least he's like the one person who I like am never sure, because I is he doing the creepy smile or is he just smiling? I don't know.
I think he's not doing anything because when it flashes back to him after, so she sees him and he's like yelling at her and he's doing the creepy smile. But when she calls for help and says that the patient needs to be restrained or whatever, he's like laying in the bed facing the other way. He's not even up and alert.
Yeah, I didn't like that. That was upsetting.
Yeah, that was a very hard scene to watch.
Yeah, I think like psych hospitals can often be really dangerous and traumatizing places.
Yeah.
And then she gets asked to take a leave because I think that they recognized that she didn't interpret the situation correctly, and she says I might have misinterpreted and overreact.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it would have made sense for her to take the time off even just after what happened.
Right, I agree.
Like, I feel like it was silly for her to come back. And I just like, I think this is like another thing for me with the movie is like, I just like don't buy that somebody in her position is denying a paid week off of work.
Well, she seems like a workaholic.
Yeah, that's true. She's definitely like working to like deal with other people's stuff so she can like run from her own stuff and all of that. But I still just was like, you work in a like psych hospital. That is one of the most stressful jobs you can have, doing counseling, and you're like getting offered a paid week off to like just be with yourself, and you're like saying no to that. So that's just like icks me. But yeah, I mean, I do agree that it's because she's a workaholic, but I'm just like, this is like ridiculous.
Yeah. And then I think the next scene we see that she goes to see her therapist and she asks for Risperdal, which I think is an antipsychotic.
Yeah, it is.
So she thinks that she's like pretty aware that she's having hallucinations, and it was surprising to me that the therapist was like no, or the psychiatrist, I guess, or at least like that she said no and like didn't ask really more questions about the hallucinations, or it just seemed that part seemed weird to me.
Well, they also didn't have an appointment.
Oh, really? I don't remember that.
No.
I noticed that I wrote at that point, is the therapist ever real? Because there's a point when she's not. But I think after seeing other scenes, she is real, but there's still like a lot of weirdness there.
The first time we see the therapist, she's just waiting in the stairwell of the therapist's office, which is like obviously not like appropriate or how you do. Like, I don't think she had an appointment. I think she was just there because the therapist was like surprised to see her.
Oh, I don't remember the therapist being surprised, and I guess I read it as like that's where she was waiting for the therapist when the appointment started, because sometimes I've waited in like weird places when I did have an appointment.
Yeah, but the therapist was like just getting there.
Yeah, I don't know. That part didn't seem weird to me either, but I don't remember her being surprised, which does make a difference.
She seemed a little surprised. That's how I read it. I read it as like this person just showed up.
I guess I just assumed she had an appointment.
No, it didn't seem that way to me. But I also think that typically can't just like go into a psychiatrist and be like, give me this medication.
Right. I guess that's not been my experience. A lot of times I have been like, I think that this medication would be helpful for me. And they're like, oh, okay. But not with antipsychotics. So I don't know. But I've had antipsychotics offered to me when I didn't want them more than being, and I guess that's like mostly what I've heard from people too. So it was kind of weird to me that she was like, oh, okay, yeah, you're having hallucinations, but just keep on keeping on.
That wasn't the impression that it gave me. It was more like the therapist to me, or like, I guess she's a psychiatrist who also does counseling, but like the impression to me was more that she was saying like, you just went through a crazy thing like one day ago. Maybe give yourself a minute to breathe and like see how you do. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it makes sense to put someone on antipsychotics like 2 days after something like that. I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I think many people experience hallucinations after trauma or even after like losing a loved one in a non super traumatic way. You know what I mean? Like, it's like just not that, it's not actually that uncommon, and it's not that alarming.
I feel like she didn't ask enough questions though, because the hallucinations she was having, like specifically she was having that we were seeing, were alarming, and they hadn't even gotten to the peak of their being alarming yet, but she just didn't ask enough about them. I think it makes sense that people would have hallucinations after a loss, and especially like experiencing a traumatic loss in front of your eyes, but I don't know. I think the one she was having seemed outside of that to me, which, like, I don't know if that's just like I was already reading it that way because I've already seen the movie.
I think you might have been putting some of the stuff that happens after into that. But I'm trying to remember exactly like what she actually sees before that. But I don't remember it being like too intense until after. But I really was under the impression that she just showed up there. I really felt like she was there without an appointment. That was 100% the vibe that I got both times I watched the movie.
Yeah, I think that would change how I felt.
The impression that I felt of the entire situation with the therapist / psychiatrist was like, she used to see this psychiatrist. The psychiatrist wanted her to talk about her past. She was not willing to do it. And when she came in, the psychiatrist didn't ask her a bunch of stuff about what she was seeing, but she basically said, do you think the reason this is so upsetting to you is because your mom killed herself?
Right.
I mean, she says it more delicately than that, but like, I don't know, that like made perfect sense as a follow-up question to me. Like, do you think the reason this is like shaking you so much is because it's bringing up this old stuff? And she's like, well, we're not going there. Right. So I don't know.
Yeah. And she specifically says, because you still feel like your mother's suicide's your fault, that she's taking responsibility for it. And she's like talking about how she's taking too much responsibility for the patient that killed herself too.
Right.
But right. Yeah. No, I see that. Like she seems like she had stopped going to therapy probably because she didn't want to go into any of that. And like, how can you get anywhere?
Right. And I think there's a difference between someone that you have been working with that you're like doing all the stuff about and you being like, oh, I think this like medication might be helpful that I heard about, versus you fully like leaving therapy because you don't want to actually do therapy and then showing up and being like, I need an antipsychotic today. You know what I mean? Like, we don't even have a concept of how long it's been since she's seen this person. Like, I'm just like, I don't know. Because she also refers to her as her former therapist at some point. So it's not like they're like in an ongoing like therapeutic relationship.
Yeah, I think that's why it's like extra hard to tell when she's real later too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even realistic that she'd be able to see her on the same day, but like every time I've needed emergency psychiatric services, I end up having to wait like 3 or 4 months to see somebody.
Well, that's also why I felt like she had just shown up, because I was like, there's no way. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way that you're her first patient of the next day. And we didn't see you call her.
I remember her calling her.
I don't.
Maybe that's later though, but I definitely remember them talking on the phone.
That was like when the fake therapist was there way later in the movie though.
No, I remember before that, I think.
I don't know. I don't remember her calling.
The next scene I wrote down, so she like is quickly deteriorating. The next scene I wrote down is the dead cat at the nephew's birthday party.
Ugh, yeah.
And she's been having hallucinations in her house, and like I recognized the time when she killed the cat this time.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, wait, when was it?
She keeps having stuff with like her alarm keeps going off, the house alarm, and there's one time when she calls and says her back door is open and she doesn't know like why it happened. I'm pretty sure that's when the cat died, because then the cat wasn't around anymore.
Oh, that makes sense. Because I think the first time I saw it, I thought that maybe the cat like got out, because it was like after that the cat was missing. So like I mean, obviously that's not what happened. The first time, that was like how my head made sense of that. But that makes sense.
Yeah.
That she like went into a fugue state and then realized that the door was open
Right.
after.
Yeah.
But the alarm went off. That's the thing. See, this is what I'm saying. This movie, when you start to like poke at it.
I mean, I've set off house alarms accidentally a lot. And if she had it armed and like didn't turn it off and then opened the door and just left it open, it would go off.
But it would go off when she opened the door, not like however long later, right?
I mean, I think it probably did.
But then how did she have time to kill the cat and clean up? There's no blood anywhere. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't like, I think you're right. I think that like the movie is saying this is when it happened, but I think it doesn't like, it doesn't check out when I like try to figure it out.
I think she just killed the cat outside and then came back in and the phone rang, because it's the phone that kind of like Is it the alarm or the phone that like triggers her out of it? I think the alarm is going off while she's still kind of,
No, the alarm
but she's
first.
still kind of out of it while the alarm's going off, isn't she? I think that's like the part that gets confusing.
I don't remember. She like goes and grabs, she seems like startled by the alarm. She like goes and grabs a knife
And then she sees that the door is open.
and she's like walking and she checks her front door and she checks her back. Yeah, she like checks her doors. I don't think she's like totally with it, but I don't think she's like not like she's there registering the alarm and trying to like solve the issue of the alarm.
Something that did bother me is the number of times she broke a wine glass because she was scared. Like the first time I was like, okay. And the second time I was like, okay. And the third time I was like, really?
Right, and even the husband or the fiance is like, "Did you break another glass?" And like, this is another one of those moments where I was like, "You want it to be funny, but you don't." Like, this would be funny if this movie had a different tone. It would have been a funny line, and he would have been like, "Did you break another wine glass?" You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it had it in. It was like in the scene, but it like wasn't in the scene.
Yeah. The alarm thing though for me just made me think of when I was a dog walker, there was this one house where I kept accidentally setting off the alarm and I would have to wait for the police to come every time. It would make me so late for the rest of the day. It was so annoying. And yeah, I also noticed when she was getting the box and like what she thinks she's giving her nephew, which is earlier she like goes to a train store, I think like on the way home actually, when she's like told to take a leave, maybe after she sees the therapist.
Yeah.
But she like goes and gets a train set and the box that we like later see the kid take the dead cat out of. That was probably the most upsetting scene of the movie to me. Again, just hate dead animals. And like you said, like you're kind of expecting to see dead people, but when you see dead animals, it's just like, oh man.
Yeah.
And especially seeing like her nephew, they're like at a birthday party and she just starts saying like, no, 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 when she sees it. And she also is like seeing one of the weird smiling people show up at that party too.
Right. And she's also finding out that her cat is dead.
Right.
Because she may have done it, but she's not like aware of it.
Right. Yeah. No, she didn't do it lucidly. I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, who did that? Versus like knowing that she was the one who did it.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's not totally clear how much the hallucinations that are like, I mean, they're not like exactly hallucinations. Like, it's not really clear, like, if they can do things.
Right. It is a creature.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'm supposed to feel like they can actually, like, manipulate the world at all or not. Like, I don't feel like that was explained much. So, like, who knows? Maybe she did it, but, like, maybe it did it. I don't even really feel like I know.
I think it did it through her. Like, when we finally meet the creature, it's like saying, you're not going to be able to get rid of me. And, like, says, I forget, she says something like, you're not allowed here. And he's like, but your mind is so inviting.
Is that what he says?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yikes.
Yeah, it's like pretty soon. Yeah, she falls through the glass. Then she ends up at the ER, and her boss, Kal Penn, is there again. Like, what the hell? What's going on, dude? And then her fiance leaves her and is like, your mom was crazy. You're crazy. It's genetic. I should know. And asks if she killed Mustache. And that's like the first time that I was like, oh, wow, you look like very noticeably unwell. It like turns around to her.
Well, and I think also part of what makes it like even more intense seeming is that like when she falls through the glass table, she cuts up her forearms. And so her forearms specifically are like super bandaged, which just brings to mind like self-harm or like suicide attempt, right? Like it's like
yeah,
the way that she's wrapped up kind of like adds to that picture of her as like being incredibly not okay.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking, I feel like part of the tone thing is that they hired like comedic actors, and maybe they're actors who are trying to break out of that, but like Kal Penn, and then she starts Googling like what's going on in the other people who killed themselves and finds the professor's wife, who's played by Judy Reyes, who plays Carla from Scrubs. And like, I love her, and like I think I have seen her in some more serious things, but it is like Kal Penn and Judy Reyes. When I see them, I'm like expecting to laugh more. I think that might have been some of the tone disruption.
I don't know, because I felt like the scene where she was talking to the say her name again. Sorry.
Judy Reyes is the actor. I just was calling her the professor's wife in my notes.
Yeah, so when she's talking to the professor's wife, that seems like the scene that is like the most consistently serious out of like kind of the whole movie. Like I was like, this one has like there's no part of it where I'm like, are you like joking? Like felt like that scene actually did land for me a little bit better.
I think the art, like, it was both spooky, but that I can see that in a cheesy way.
Yeah.
Like, it was creepy, but it is like, I think it is just like the smile is like, okay, like what it feels kind of like it's supposed to be like tongue in cheek. But I mean, she's definitely serious when she's like, once Dr. Carter starts saying your husband wasn't insane and like that she's seeing the things because I think she had pretended to be a journalist or something like that. The professor is like, get out of here, and calls her a nutcase. And that's when I looked up the etymology of the use of nutcase because I was like, what a weird phrase.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess since the 1700s, we've been calling heads nuts, but nutcase itself was first used in 1955.
And which is funny, I think I said this to you already, but I'm just going to say it anyway because it still makes me laugh kind of. I think that it would make more sense for them to call an asylum a nutcase than a person. I really still feel that way.
Because it encases
the nuts, right? Like not to I don't like love that word, but like I just can't help but think that.
Right, like there's nut house.
Which is funny because this is totally random, but when we were like little, my uncle used to do this thing where he would put his hands on both sides of our heads and like shake our head. Not like violent. This sounds like violent. It was not. It was like a gentle little thing. But he would go, I'm going to crush your head like a nut. And he would go like this, just like a little shake of that. Like it didn't hurt. It wasn't like, it was like like it was always read as a joke by like all of us. But it's just like making me think of that.
Yeah. I remember some childhood song that was like, I'm a nut. And they like knock on their head.
Oh my God. I do too.
It might have like actually been a nut. Now I need to know what it is.
Yeah. Because that just unlocked something in my brain for sure.
Oh, yeah, this is it. But I don't know what it's from. But wow, this is unlocking a big thing.
I think it's a camp song.
Welcome to Weezing's official YouTube channel.
It's like this image. So it's like a nut laying in the grass.
I know this song from my overnight camp that I briefly went to.
I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm a nut.
Wow.
That's right. Took myself to the movie show. Stayed too late and said, let's go. Took my hand and led me out. Drove me home and gave a shout. I'm a nut.
I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. Oh no, it's calling. Nope, don't call emergency services. Thanks.
Ours was a little bit different, but it was the same song.
It says it's from Weezing in Sillyville.
I don't know what that is. I know it from camp. Like now that I'm like thinking of how it goes, I'm sure that I know it from camp, but the lyrics were a little bit different. But a lot of it is the same, it seems. But ours was like not just I'm a nut in the core. It was I'm a nut in a rut. I'm crazy. That was actually in the song at my camp. But a lot of the rest of it was the same. Like I remember, not the same exact as what you just said. I'm looking at some different versions of it online right now. But it is, the melody is the same and stuff, and the lyrics are very similar.
I remember this talking tree, and I remember she like her outfit like turns colors and glows and stuff. Wow.
Yeah, the video does not seem even remotely familiar to me, honestly.
Man, I definitely watched this. It was released in 1989.
I think I just found the one that is the same as the one from my camp.
Nice. Play it.
I don't know how it's going to sound when I play it. I'm just looking at the lyrics. Let's see. Oh, it's just playing. It's playing in my headphones. It wants to play in my headphones. It's also not playing the lyrics anyway. It's only playing the tune.
Oh, okay.
My favorite verse. This is the one that was from camp. It's took myself to the movie show, sat myself in the very front row, wrapped my arms around my waist, got so fresh I slapped my face. I'm a nut in a rut. I'm crazy.
I remember that one. Yeah, I remember that one.
That wasn't in the video. That's why I said it must have been a little bit different.
I remember that, but I don't remember the in a rut or I'm crazy part. But I remember the verse that you just said, the movie show one. And I maybe I did it at a camp too, or I don't know. My mom's a preschool teacher, so I know like a lot of weird songs like that.
Oh, it could have been a preschool one too, for sure.
Yeah. And then she goes to see her cop ex again. And I think like he's mostly in the movie so that she has access to the records of the past killings and can connect all of this, because I don't know how else that would have happened. Especially because like the one person who was related to someone who was killed through this string of suicides is not wanting to talk to her. I wrote down in my notes here, like, I kind of feel like at least they aren't killing other people, but it's not like these people don't seem like they were suicidal before. They all have had like some history of violent crime in their life and like some kind of loss, which seems to make them vulnerable to this creature demon being thing. But it seems like they're being forced to commit suicide. But then there is one guy who avoids it by committing murder instead.
Yeah. And I do think that it kind of feels to me like this movie is less about like the person who's actually struggling and more about like, not less about that, but I think that the movie is also very much about the way that you actually do impact other people when you're struggling like that. I don't think it did it in like a way that felt like rude to people who are, but I do think that a lot of it was about like, this is really hard for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that the husband or the fiance, whatever, was like a bad example of that because he was kind of a piece of shit. But like, he was like looking for a way out, I felt, and this was just an easy one to take. But I think that the sister, like the way she lashes out at the sister, who's really is just kind of trying to protect herself
and trying to protect her son,
you know, like emotionally and like the effect that it has on them. Right. Like, I think that that is like a big theme of the movie too, of just like, because when she goes and talks to the wife of the professor, right, like you see how distraught she was about like his behavior, his painting, right? Like, it's like you kind of start to see like, yes, there's this like trail of people who died, but there's also like, think about all of the people like left in the wake of that. And like, what do they do now?
right? And the sister like acknowledges their mom's mental illness and says like, I'm sorry that I like left you with her and you bared the brunt of it because of that, but like I had to get out for my own well-being. And it does seem like her sister seems more settled than she is. Although I find, like, I mean, I think we're supposed to find her sister and her sister's husband kind of obnoxious when we like go to dinner with them in the beginning, and she's like not really respecting anything she's saying.
Yeah, but I think that it also is kind of like they're obnoxious, but they're not like, I don't like hate them. You know what I mean? They're like not obnoxious in the way that like some like movie characters will be obnoxious. Like, she's almost obnoxious in a way that like to me speaks to, I just want to like have a normal life. Do you not see that I just want to be normal?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is a frustrating thing, but also like I do think that in the context of like what we know about their family history, I think it like makes a lot of sense that she's like, I want to have enough money, I want to have a family, I like want to be a PTA mom, I like don't want to be remarkable or do anything that's a big deal. Like, I just want to like be a normal person.
Mm-hmm. I definitely felt a lot more empathy for her, like once, like at the birthday party scene, and when she's saying like that she needs to protect her family and that what's happening to her is what happened to their mom. I felt kind of torn between like, okay, you need to protect your family, and could you do more to try to get her help? Because I felt like this felt like very similar to like it was a good metaphor for mental illness because it made her so isolated. Like all of the people who maybe like could have helped her ended up sort of leaving her. And like her fiance did try to talk to the therapist with her, which like I also feel a little weird about because I feel like he should have talked to her about that first. But I don't know. Yeah, I felt like all of the people who should have helped her kind of just left her, but she was also like pushing everybody away and saying, I have to be alone.
Yeah, and it also seems like she's been like refusing help for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, that was the impression that, which like speaks to another reason that I didn't love her character, is because therapists who are avoidant of their own therapy are like one of my I mean, honestly, people who are avoidant of therapy are like one of my biggest pet peeves, but therapists and like people who work in mental health who are avoidant of getting their own therapy is like something that grates on me in a way that I like don't even have language to describe.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was really, really heavily like implied, if not said explicitly in the movie, that like she has like kind of not been willing to get the help that she's needed already. And so I can kind of understand, like, I agree with you. And I also like know the feeling of like trying to get someone help. And like, even if you get them the help, it's like, if they're not going to do it, they're not going to do it. And like, it's so much work. It's so much work to like get somebody into care of some sort, of any sort. And like, then for them to just not be willing to engage with it is like a really agonizing experience. And we don't know the extent to which like they've already tried to do that.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just like something to think about.
I think like thinking of the past and like her not being willing makes sense, but I felt like she was like very explicitly asking for help from her sister and other people and trying to say like, yeah, I mean, she was like, this thing's coming to get me and I need help. And I think that maybe it does, their response makes more sense to me if they have tried to get her help in the past.
Yeah. And I don't know if they've tried to get her help, but I think they may have just witnessed her kind of refusal to really accept help. But I think also the help she was asking for was not the help that she needed. Well, I guess it was, like, if you believe that the monster is real, like, whatever in the movie universe, right? But, like, in the metaphor of mental illness, the help she was asking for isn't the help that's needed. And so how do you tell someone, you don't need me to help you solve this mystery, you need me to take you to a hospital? Like, how do you say that to someone?
Yeah.
I mean, you say it like that, but like, I understand also that like for a lot of people that like feels impossible in that moment.
Yeah. I think that it is, the creature is, I mean, I don't know how people make a creature real or not, or a metaphor or not in movies, really.
Well, because I think it's both. Like, I think in a movie like this, it's both. Like, the monster is real in the movie, but like, I think that the point of it is the metaphor.
Yeah, and I like that we actually see the creature because that makes it seem more real to me. And I don't think that means it's not a metaphor, but sometimes when I don't see the creature at all, then I am more apt to like view it through the lens of metaphor only.
Yeah. I liked that we saw the creature, and I liked like the idea, the imagery of the creature crawling into like through the mouth or whatever to like get inside the person. Yeah. But when whoever's face it's wearing right before that, when it peels its face off to reveal its like real face, the real face is cheesy looking. It's like there's something about it that like made me almost want to laugh, and not like a shocked laugh, but like a laugh of like, oh my god, is this the thing? I don't know what it was.
How it looked scared me a lot watching it, but it also isn't like, I can't recall the face that easily. I think because there was like a lot going on.
I'm pulling up a picture of it right now.
It isn't like one of the things that has stuck with me as a scary image.
Yeah, I think it's the several mouths thing. Like, I'm going to send you this picture so that you can look at it with me and we can react to it together. But I think for me, it's like goofy. I don't know. There's something about it that feels a little goofy looking that I can't quite put my finger on.
Yeah, it's not what I expect it to look like. We see it at another time when maybe it's like half it and half the other thing. Because I find that face more scary, where it's like, I'm sending it.
Like the mom, when it's like the monster-fied version of the mom?
Yeah, the monster-fied version of the mom. Like, it's not the normal mom, but it's like the mom with like a really big forehead and angry eyes.
Yeah, and she's like grown up the wall, kind of. Yeah, that I thought was scary. I thought that part was way scarier. But when the face got peeled off and we saw that, I was like, that's your face? Like, what?
It's funny, like the eyes, they didn't really do anything to the eyes except for like, it looks like a skeleton with eyes in it plus flesh mouths. But it's interesting, like the eyes, you're right, like the eyes don't look scary. They look kind of funny.
The teeth don't look scary either. They look kind of funny too. Like, I don't know. I'm looking at it and I feel like this is something out of the Scary Movie franchise. Like, that's how it feels to me.
It doesn't feel like that to me, but it feels like something that could be in Beetlejuice.
Also, yes, I could see that too. But just not a movie that takes itself this seriously is really like what I'm getting at. It's just another thing that feels disjointed from whatever the tone is supposed to be. But I don't know what the tone is supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really know.
Yeah, it was also weird. Like, I know that like it wasn't the real therapist, but when the therapist just shows up at her house, I was like, what?
Boundaries.
Yeah. And then we find out that it's like not the real therapist. That's one of the scariest parts to me, is the idea of people in your life, like you thinking you're having normal interactions with them and then realizing that it's not.
Yeah. I think that I agree with you. I think that is like one of the scarier things about the movie. And I think that was why the scene with the patient Carl at the hospital was so upsetting, because a lot of it is about like how it can be scary for the person who's having it. But like, I mean, that moment of just like the way that like she has that power that like is not in check in that moment. And I mean, in my notes about that scene, I literally just wrote, yikes, poor Carl.
Yeah, Carl has a bad time in this whole movie. Then luckily this doesn't actually happen, but in one of her visions that she thinks is real, she finds out that she has to kill somebody to pass on the thing if she wants to end up not killing herself. And she like kind of decides that she's going to kill Carl, and we see her go in there. And this was cheesy too, actually, but I think sometimes it like felt like it was getting too serious, or like whoever was making it was like, maybe we should add some cheese. I don't know, but you're right. But I didn't think of it as cheesy at the time. I just thought like, oh, okay. But we see her stab Carl. Well, she's holding a knife. She's in the room. Carl's like, what are you doing? And then her boss comes in and she's like, now's my time, and like stabs Carl in front of her. And I was like, oh my God, Carl. No, Carl. Now I'm thinking of the llama. Carl, you can't eat hands. You can't eat people. Eating people kills people. But then she is like stabbing him, and then the way that she like realizes that it's not really happening is like her boss starts peeling off the face in the same kind of way, which later we like connect and are like, oh, okay, creature, cool, you like to peel off faces, fine. But the way that the face is peeled off, I don't know how you do that in like I've definitely seen face peeling that wasn't cheesy, but the way that they're doing it does just hit that line for some reason. But then she's like in her car, she wakes up, she's like, that didn't really happen, shit, and she like screams. She's screaming in her car a lot. And then her boss is at the window, and then as she's like driving away, and her boss is like, let me help you, I'll get you help. That he tried.
Well, he saw a knife in her car. He saw like a giant knife in her car.
Yeah, but as she's driving away, she sees him like turn into Carl and like all bloody, and she's like, ah, and like drives away. And that was also like, they took up a lot of time just having her drive clunkily. That scene, I remember being like, she's certainly taking a long time to get out of this parking lot for like how much she's supposed to be like speeding away.
Right.
And then her cop ex calls her and is like, I just saw an APB saying you're dangerous and armed. Like, what the heck is going on? And she's like, I just have to be alone. Then it can't have what it needs. And of course, he like follows her there and fulfills the curse's destiny or whatever.
I like already don't remember how this movie ended.
I thought it ended way faster. Like I told you, like at the hour mark, I was like, okay, she's going to go to the house. But I didn't remember, like Pat was telling me like, oh yeah. And then she kills herself. And I was like, I don't think she kills herself. And like, I guess I didn't remember that either, but I do remember it now.
I remember like up until the very end, but like I didn't really remember the very end.
So she goes to her mom's house. She like replays the scene that was actually the very first scene that I had forgotten about, where she was 10 years old and her mom overdosed or something like that, but she had called her into the room and was like asking her to call 911. And Rose was like, no. Then we see her as adult Rose responding to her mom. And I thought what she said was actually like very healthy and was like a nice moment of her like kind of reclaiming something.
I thought that was just a really interesting choice, though, to have the story be that her mom, like, explicitly said to her, like, I fucked up, like, I need you to call for help, and her not do, like, I thought that was a really interesting choice compared to just her, like, freezing after, like, finding her mom unconscious or something. Like, I thought the fact that they actually had this back and forth was, like, a very interesting decision.
Yeah, and I think it speaks a lot to why she's had trouble going into it in therapy, because is like, this is, like, totally my fault, and maybe she's shared with therapists that her mom killed herself and she was there, but not shared that part. And I could see how that would be really hard to share. But I also think as an adult, you can't blame yourself for making that kind of decision as a child. And then, we see like another fake scene where like this is where we see like the mom is the monster and then the face peeling, not great. And then she like figures out that she can burn it down and she's like, I got away from you. Oh yeah, this is a whole scene that's like unnecessarily long because we think she's burnt down the house. She goes to the ex's house and then the ex is like actually the smiling creature thing. And that's when he's like, you could never get away from me. And then she's like back outside the house and it's like not burnt down at all. And she's like what the fuck? And then her ex actually shows up there and she's like, no, get away from me. I'm going to kill myself in front of you. And then you're going to have, and this is how it all happens. And she like runs into the house, and then he gets into the house and she is like pouring lighter fluid or something on herself and lights herself up. And then we see the thing kind of get passed on to him because his eyes widen. But that was like, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the whole thing, I think. But I thought it was enjoyable to watch. I would recommend watching it, but I don't think I would watch it again now.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I really did think it was, like, fun to watch the first time. But I don't think it, like, holds up to that much scrutiny. So, like, I think it's, like, one to watch when you're just like, I want to watch something that will freak me out for a bit.
I was thinking a lot about, like, so is there a way to end this?
There's definitely a way to end it, but it fucks with the metaphor in a big way, because the way to end it would be to kill yourself privately. Like, that's like actually how you could end it, would be for like me to come in my house and like be by myself and like be like, all right, well, I'm gonna die. I can either like die right now and like not have this thing get passed on, or I can like wait till it kills me. But that's like kind of fucked up for the metaphor that they're trying to do here of like mental illness, because like the solution to mental illness is not killing yourself, obviously.
Right. And it made me think about suicide contagion a lot too. I think it's like a metaphor for that. But I think it gets weird to me because it's like I know a lot of like curse movies, like you're cursed to die, like The Ring kind of thing. I guess there is a creature and a curse in The Ring. It's not like she's not really a creature, but it is confusing having like a creature and a curse. To me, it feels like two things at once, and I think it gets more complicated.
I don't know. I kind of thought of it as like a demon type of a thing. Because like It Follows is like that too.
I've never seen It Follows.
Oh, really?
I need to watch that.
Oh, you should watch that. That's a good movie.
I think it's on our list.
Yeah, I would definitely watch that. And I think that's actually like one of my other things about this movie was that like I kind of see what it was trying to do, and like I could put it in a category with some of these other movies that try to do the mental health conversation and stuff. And this one has like its own thing about the suicide contagion and stuff like that. But I think like in general, there's just other movies that kind of do a better job of like having there be like a kind of demonic or haunting metaphor for mental illness. And I don't know.
I know you don't like rating things really, but I think if I was going to rate it, I would give it like a 7 out of 10, maybe 6.5.
Really? I'd probably give it like closer to a 5. I don't know. I'm not like good at rating things because I don't really know what I'm supposed to be like rating them against or whatever.
Well, I think of like a 10 as like my ideal or favorite movie, but I'm not thinking of a specific movie. But like if it hits like all of the points and has few outliers.
I don't know.
We should come up with a rating system. That's what we need. We were doing ghosties, but we need like, I'm going to make us a rubric.
Yeah, like I need guidelines if I'm going to rate something, because I can't just like rate it with nothing.
Yeah.
It's easier for me to like rank stuff.
That's fair. And it is, I have found like when I have actual guidelines for how I'm rating, sometimes I rate differently than when I'm just thinking of it off the top of my head, and I'll be like surprised at how different it is.
What do you think sticks with you the most about this movie?
I mean, definitely the cat scene, but what I said is the most haunting is like the idea of having interactions with people who you know and then realizing that they're not real.
That makes sense.
Or that like it was like something else that was happening. Someone else. What is it for you?
I mean, I think the parts that are like that fuck me up the most are like not the supernatural parts, which is not uncommon for me, but I mean, honestly, the part where her mom is like talking to her and she's like not calling for help is like really like that's like a really disturbing scene.
Yeah, that is really disturbing.
Yeah, and I like have very complex feelings about it that I don't think I could even like explain. So that really like stuck in my head a little bit. And then I honestly think like when they like swoop into Carl's room in the hospital and he's just like laying on the bed and he's screaming like no, so those are honestly like I think more than any of the like actual scary stuff are just really hard to watch.
Yeah, I definitely found when they were tying Carl down really upsetting also. I feel like you could make a whole horror movie in a psych hospital. I think there are ones, but all the ones I've seen are in like old-timey hospitals.
You should watch Unsane.
I will.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that this movie was like really trying to do something. I don't think it did it as well as it wanted to. I don't think it knew what it was trying to do exactly with the tone. I think that if this had like stayed in workshop mode for like an extra year, it probably would have been phenomenal. Like I think there's a good movie buried in there,
agree.
but it didn't fall into place the right way.
I agree. It definitely had potential to be better.
And I think it's disappointing when a movie that's trying to have a serious conversation of some sort does fall through in that way. It's always like, oh, I want this to be, I wanted this to work, and it just kind of didn't.
I wonder if the writer felt like it came out as their vision or not. Because I know, like, often, especially like selling a movie to a studio, I don't know who the writer is or anything about them, but like, I know, like, sometimes their visions will get pretty warped by the studio.
Yeah.
Like, what they think is going to sell.
For sure. You lose like a level of control over it if you're not doing everything totally independently.
Well, it's written and directed by Parker Finn, and it was his directorial debut. But I really like reading the production notes on Wikipedia. I feel like it's harder to like talk about or relay other than just reading it. So I think if people are interested in that, they should just go read it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But it is really interesting. Like for Seven, the production notes were really interesting.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting to me that the writer and it was written and directed by the same person, and it still didn't. I almost feel like I wouldn't have guessed that. And I'm not like super into like the production stuff. I don't like know a lot about it, but I would think that some of how it felt could have been somebody reading a script that had one tone and interpreting it in a different tone and directing it that way. It's interesting to me that this was all one guy.
So it says that it was originally based on his Parker Finn short film, Laura Hasn't Slept, where a young woman is seeking help of her therapist to get rid of recurring nightmares. And I'm curious to watch that. It says Paramount Pictures asked him to make it into a feature-length film, and I think maybe it was harder to translate that way.
Yeah, I'm probably going to watch that because I tend to really like short films for horror. They really do tend to be scary. This actually says that it kind of works as a prequel. I don't know how true that is, but I tend to like that. The movie that I want us to watch that I think does a better job of some similar themes is Lights Out, and that one is also based on a short film. But the short film is like a little bit less substantial and like heavy on theme than the actual full movie is. But I remember when I saw the short film, I was like, okay. And if you've seen the short film, anybody listening, you know exactly when I felt that way. Have you seen the movie They Look Like People?
I think that's one that we're gonna watch pretty soon also.
I just never know which ones you've seen. I'm putting that on our list.
I haven't seen a lot of movies. I do want to make a list of the movies. I mean, we're kind of doing it like through the podcast, but in general, I want to make a list of the movies that I have watched because people ask me, even like when people ask me like what my favorite shows or movies are, I often forget them until I like see the title or am watching them again. And then I'm like, oh, right, I love this. I remember when my whole personality was because of this show.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about this before. I had asked you before, like, why you think they made the symbol smiling. Like, that was, like, the main thing. Especially, I'm kind of curious about it because it didn't seem to be connected to the nightmare in the short story, but maybe it is. But that is a weird interjection. And the movie was originally called There's Something Wrong with Rose. So they changed it to smile and made smile, like, that's like what the whole thread through the movie is.
So was the original motif not going to be the smile, you think?
I'm not sure, but since it wasn't the title, I don't know. I need to look into the plot of Laura Hasn't Slept a little bit and see.
I'm probably just going to watch it later
I think
today.
I will. Okay, yeah, it is in her nightmare. A sinister man constantly smiles at her. But I feel like it works better in a nightmare than, I don't know.
Yeah, but I think that gets into like the Freddy Krueger territory. Like, I think.
Right, that's true.
Which I don't think means you can't do it again, but I could see them being like, do we really want to do that?
Yeah. But I agree that like sometimes it's easier to do effective, I don't know what the word is, explication through short films.
Yeah.
And it can get muddy in a longer thing. But I do really think the things I would have liked to have seen in a longer film are her past with therapy, more of her relationship with her mom beforehand, like we kind of hear what it was like. But I think it might have been more effective to see some scenes of it. And I mean, for all I know, they filmed those and cut them. But I think I would have taken out. There were some scenes that just like they were just moving too slowly. It's not even that the scene was wrong. It was just like the pacing was just all off.
I feel like the short film was probably better. I haven't seen it yet, but I will I would like put money on it.
It was at South by Southwest in 2020.
Oh, nice.
It's 11 minutes.
Yeah, I'll probably watch it at some point today.
Oh, it looks like it's on YouTube, actually. Oh, it's on Prime also.
Cool. Probably watch it later.
I wonder why they changed the name from Laura to Rose. Like, did Laura not test well?
Laura is the first one. Laura is the first girl, I think. Even the actress is the same. I mean, I don't know. Like, I haven't seen the movie yet, but the actress is the same as the girl who played the first girl in this one. So I wonder if maybe that's who it is.
Ooh, I'm excited to see her longer. I really liked that actress.
Same. Thanks for listening. I know we didn't have as positive of feelings about this one as we have of some of the movies we talked about. But if you thought that there were some redeeming things that we overlooked, I'd love to hear about them. We'll have another episode in a couple of weeks on Spotify. And for now, you can find us over on Instagram at What Haunts You Pod and send us a DM if you want to talk about Smile.